I would say generally high value man is very, like, of course, look, I'm not going to deny some men are just built naturally at an advantage. A lot of the talk online is like men have to build their value and women are just born with it. That's simply not true. Some men are born 6'4". Some men are born totally muscles and all these things. Some men are born into wealth. Some men are born at an advantage. There is some high value. There are some prerequisites that are objective that can be unfair. So it could be something like the money they make, or the lifestyle or their upbringing might put them in a higher value, or things like, their weight and stuff like that. All of those things matter. Objectively, those things matter. Psychologically speaking, I think what really makes a man high value is a really high level of self-esteem, and self-esteem simply comes from self-respect. What self-respect looks like is doing what's best for you, even if you want to give in to your current desires. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, this woman is fantastic and she's great sex, but she's dangerous, she's chaotic. The man that can't walk away from that woman and hyper attaches to her is automatically low value, because he has allowed one desire to dictate all his behavior. Or let's say there's lots of alcohol in the room and he can't resist alcohol, and he might be really successful, really great, but he's such a sucker for alcohol and he's addicted to it, and he can't overcome that one temporary desire for his long-term goals. High value men can suppress some of their current desires for their long-term vision of themselves, whether that's food, whether it's how they spend their money, is whether the women they select. They have the ability to practice self-control in different areas of their life.
She's talking about me, which is crazy. I think she's really getting image. It's weird. Are you describing me?
But I would imagine you do have self-control, because it's hard to build something this high without it. But here's where high-value men get it wrong. They have incredible self-control in business, terrible with women. And you have to be holistically high-value. And what I mean by that is it can't stop when you leave the office, your level of self-control and your level of self-respect. You don't throw it out the window and then go home to a wife that's abusive, or a woman that's transactional and uses you and abuses you. It has to extend to every area of your life, and particularly outside of the boardroom.
And what makes a high-value woman?
I would say it's a bit, look, again, I know it's going to sound politically incorrect, but beauty is essential to be high value as a woman, not because I believe it, but because this is what men respond to. In order for you to have high value, without beauty, unfortunately, you're limited in your value. And so, I'm not saying everybody has to be high value, but beauty doesn't necessarily just mean that you have to be the most attractive person in the room. It's just that you take care of your appearance. That means you stay on top of your weight to some extent, and that means you stay on top of your appearance. You dress as well as you can. You carry yourself well. You can't be totally out of shape and totally not take care of yourself and expect to be high value because you've got a degree in optometry or something. You've got a great job. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, it's what men respond to. So appearance is really important. But the main thing I would say to be a high value woman is, though you've got appearance and though you've got so many options when it comes to men, you reject more men than you accept. You have ability to reject attention. High value women can reject attention and verbal attention from men all day, every day. Compliments mean nothing. Attention means nothing, because they look for something more valuable than that. And they know that talk is cheap. So high value women, you can't buy them, and you can't get them through just words. They have to be attracted to who you are as a human being. So if you are a man who's such a mess and you've got no self-control, you've got nothing going on in your life, and you've got a beautiful woman, she's still not high value, because if she was truly high value, she wouldn't have selected you. High value women would be looking at your choices in your life, and they would be choosing a man who makes really good decisions, has really good self-control, treats her really well. So they have really high selection process. So they take care of themselves, they have a really high selection process, and you can't buy them through attention and money. And I would say those are the main ingredients. Of course, nurture is really important. Naturally nurturing and caring is really important. If she's not family orientated, I know that sounds a bit like, old fashioned, but family orientated and nurturing women naturally enjoy looking after the men they're with.
Now, it seems like you have a lot of very traditional values and opinions. Where did that come from? And how do you think that fits into society today, which has rejected a lot of that?
It's so bizarre, because I was born and raised in London. But my parents are from Pakistan, from Kashmir, which is a very traditional area in Pakistan. And for some reason, even though I grew up in London, I'm Muslim as well, I was just always very much identified with my culture. So I'd always get faced with alternative views. But my parents were so strict, I almost didn't have a choice. I had to stay quite traditional. I wasn't allowed out late. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend or anything like that. So I was always, and I never drank alcohol. So I had these restrictions and I had this religious faith. So instead, I think what happened with my mind is because I wasn't allowed to do all the things that everybody else was doing, I found mental justifications for why the way I live my life is better or why it's better for me. So what happened is I had to constantly challenge what society was telling me. And so because society would say to me, oh, you should be sleeping around, you should be doing this, and I wasn't allowed to, I had these two completely conflicting doctrines, and then I had to find my own decision making, and mine just usually drifted towards more the traditional route. And so I was confronted with the opposite of what I was being told at home, and I had to form my own judgment. And that's why I'm kind of against the grain when it comes to my culture, because I was against like the Western culture, because I used to identify more with my Eastern values.
Do you think one is better than the other overall?
Yeah,
I know
I'm going to be biased.
Yeah,
I'm going to be biased.
General here, but what are the benefits of being more traditional?
I'm going to be biased because I have family that are far more traditional than I am. I'm actually very liberal by my family standard because, you know, I don't cover up and stuff. So I'm still very, somewhat modern. But I would say the only thing that I see is a difference, and I think that is better for mental health, is in Eastern culture, their value is not derived by extrinsic values. And what I mean by that is they're less likely to base their self-worth on looks, money, sex, vices. They don't really base their self-esteem on pleasure. They're more likely to base their self-esteem on duty. Have I got married? Have I got kids? Have I given money to my parents? Have I supported everybody in my area in my tribe? Have I contributed to society? So because their self-worth becomes more communal, I think it's better for my self-esteem if I drift more towards those values.
What's really interesting is when I was doing research into you,
were you really bored? You can be honest. It must
no.
I
loved it. I loved it. It's very applicable to me, so it actually, it helps a lot.
Jack is taking notes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to review this plenty of times. When I was taking notes, I decided to call up a few women my age that were single to ask them, like, what are their thoughts? What's their perspective, in dating in the modern age, I suppose. And every single time they brought up, I hate this whole like high value, low value thing. Which is really interesting because I think like colloquially it's kind of turned into a little bit more of a toxic thing. But I also think that it's inaccurate to say that a small percentage of guys and a small percentage of women get most of the attention. So why do you think people have such a negative response to more traditional values in this sense? Like, why do you think people are gravitating towards something that you would say is ineffective?
Because it's quicker. That's all it is. It's far quicker. It's far quicker to say to yourself, I know I'll be a high value man. I'll just get a girl half my age. She'll be super hot and I'll buy her if I have to. And then I can walk into a room and then I can be known as a high value man. Or I quickly, make a few bucks, whether I do it in a corrupt way through or like scamming people, or if I just do it, sell a few things, whatever it is, it's quicker.